We are working on our workshop project right now. This is the final effect we want to get. We've created the HTML structure right here. So all we need is already prepared. We created a style CSS file, imported the Roboto font from Google Fonts. So now let's go to our style CSS file and start working with our project. This is how our project looks like, and this is what we want to achieve. This is our final goal. So let's start working. First thing we need to do is to do a style reset. So as you already know, the asterisk symbol, and we want to reset our margin to 0 and our padding also to 0. Let's save our file. We can already see the margins are gone. And now let's style our wrapper div. Let's refer to it with the class of wrapper like this. And I'll be using some dummy colors, temporary illustrative colors, just to show you how the elements behave and change during our work with CSS, just so you can see it better. Because it's very important, especially at the beginning with working with CSS, because later on you will already imagine and predict the effect of some properties. But for now, it's really good to see what is changing and how it's changing. So I'm going to use a background color with a beige value. I guess that's how you pronounce it. Let's save the change. And you can see that this is the whole website. We have our nav tag, our header, main, and footer. But as we know, they have all 100% of the width and 0 height. So they are practically not visible. So the only height which comes from the text inside the nav tag is this. So this is the whole website at this moment. And what we want from this wrapper div, which contains the whole content of our website, is to have its max width of, for example, 1240 pixels. It's usually up to you or up to the graphic designer which max width is the best. It can be 1200 pixels, 1400 pixels, sometimes it's even 1960. It really ups to you. We'll be just focusing on this max width in this project, but it's totally optional. Now let's see the difference. Let's see the effect. For now, nothing changes, but as you can see already, when our browser window gets bigger than this value, 1240 pixels, our wrapper, so our whole website, stays with its max width. But as we can see, it's by default aligned to left. So we want to change this, and you should already know this. We can change it using the margin property with the value of 0, auto. We don't want to have any margin from the top and the bottom of our website. We could have some if we would like to. For example, 100 pixels. And you can see it already. That's where our website will start. But that's not how you create websites. Let's just leave it at 0. And we want it auto from left and right, so that our website will be always centered when its max width is reached. Beautiful. As you can see, now our whole website will stay at the center of our screen. Now I want to create the CSS rules for all our sections on our website. So we have a nav tag, header tag, main, and footer. Now, when I save our file, you can see that our style CSS file is highlighted to this yellow color. We have a 4 number right here and right here. And we have a 4 number in this icon right here. It means that we have 4 warnings. Because here on the red will be highlighted errors. For example, when we forget a semicolon at the end of one of our declarations. Now you can see it's red. We have 2 errors and 4 warnings. When we click it, we can see that semicolon is expected because we didn't put it right here, and add rule of selector expected. Because now the code editor thinks that this margin property name is still the value of this max width, and it doesn't recognize it. So that's also useful information for you. If you see that your file is being highlighted in red, probably that means, for sure that means that you have some errors in your code, and you can check them by clicking on this icon, and you can see all the errors right here. So let's fix this. But the second icon you can see right here are the warnings, and then our file will be highlighted to yellow. Let's click it and see what warnings do we have. These are not the errors, but our code editor suggests us that we should not use the empty CSS rules in our file. As I said, that's not an error. We can save this, everything works perfectly. But the code editor just reminds us that from the point of the readability of the code, if we are not planning to style some element, we shouldn't build a CSS rule for it. So let's place something to our CSS rules for our landing page sections. Let's leave the nav tag for later. Let's set our header first. Let's set its height to 300 pixels, for example. Let's set its background color to gray. Let's see the effect. We can already see our header. Now let's go to our main tag. Let's set this time its minimum height, which would be, for example, 50% of the browser window, so 50 VH, which is the viewport height. And let's set its background color to beige or beige. I really don't know how to pronounce that. Let's see the effect, and we can already see it. The last thing would be our footer. We don't want to style anything into it for now, but let's just place the background color of it to be white. We will see no difference at all, but I just did it to not have an empty row for the footer, because as you can see, now we have only one warning, and it's an empty row for our nav tag, which we will style in a moment. Now I want to show you the final effect of our wrapper, which you can see right here. This is our whole website. In our wrapper div, we have our whole content of the website, and this is how we want it to be. Now I can get rid of this wrapper background color because we don't need it. I just wanted to show you at the beginning. And we have styled for this project our header, which is right here, our main, which is right here, and our footer, which is at the bottom of the page. Our landing page for now fits the whole browser window, so it has 100% of the viewport height. So all we need to do now is to style our navigation to look like this. So let's get to work and let's style it. First, let's set the background color of our nav tag. And we want it to be EEE, for example. it will be light gray, just like this. And this is the color we have in our project. For now, let's leave the nav tag and let's focus on our A tags. So our nav A. We could place only the A tags because these are the only A tags on our website. But it's good to place such as selectors, specifically referring to the elements we want to style, because we can have many A tags on our website placed in different sections, for example in header, main, footer, whatever. And it's good to know from the beginning that these are the A tags that are placed only in the navigation. So let's style our A tags. Let's change its font size to 22 pixels, like this. Let's get rid of this underline. So what we need to use is text decoration, set to none. Here we go. Let's use text transform property with the uppercase value, like this. Let's change its font family to Roboto. I will copy the whole declaration from here, since I copied it from the Google fonts. And I'll place it right here. Let's see the difference. We can see the difference already. Let's change its color to brown, like this. And we can see that our navigation slowly starts to look like on the final project. Let's also use letter spacing property set to 2 pixels. Now we want to style the size of our A tags and the spaces between them. Let's see how this looks on our final project. This is how it looks for now on our real-time project. So let's try to change it. Let's set some paddings to our elements. For example, 10 pixels from the bottom and the top, and 20 pixels from the left and the right. And as you can see, from the left and the right, our padding works, but nothing changed from the bottom and the top. And as you may guess, it's probably because the A element is by default an inline element, so we have to change its display value. Let's do it. If we wanted to change to block, this is the effect we will get. Now we have this menu set like this. It might be good for smartphones. For example, we will do such a menu that on the smartphones will look like that, and on the screens of a computer will look more or less like that, depending on the width of the screen, but not now. What now we want to have is those elements placing themselves next to each other, but with keeping the control of their size. So we want this padding 10 pixels from the top and the bottom, and 20 pixels from the left and the right to be kept. So all we need to do is to change for the A elements the display property to inline block value. Let's see it. And voila, we can see 10 pixels from the bottom and the top, and 20 pixels from the left and the right. Let me change its background color just for now, just so we can see where our element starts and where it ends. Like this. This is our whole element, and we have those little spaces which are the effect of the inline property, but we will not discuss it in this project because they will not disturb us at this time. But what we want to add is margin to our elements. And we wanted 20 pixels from the top and the bottom, and 15 pixels from the left and the right. And let's see the effect. voila. I did this because I want you to see the difference between the padding, which is inside our element and keeps the element's background color, and the margin that separates our elements from each other but keeps the background color of its parent, so the navigation. Because without this background color, the difference may be the same, but you can see the clickable area. This is not the clickable area because this is the navigation area, and the pointer cursor appears only at the content box and the padding box. So we wanted to keep our buttons wider, because now if we want to set the border of our elements, for example, to 2 pixels solid brown, we will get this effect where our buttons are nicely visible and we can see the clickable area of these elements, because the rest, this area, are the margins and this is the padding, which is inside our element. Now if we will comment our margin, it will look like this. And if we comment our padding, it will look like this. I'm just showing you this so you could visualize what is the actual difference and effect of the margin and the padding. You will be using these properties very intuitively in no time, believe me. Let's delete this background color because we don't need it at this point. Like this. As well as we don't need this border right here. But maybe we could place it, for example, after hovering on our element. It's always good to place a pseudo class of an element right below this element we styled. So for example, we have an A tag, which is in navigation, and now we wanted to place the hover pseudo class for it. So nav A hover, and maybe after hovering on our element, we wanted to have a border like this. But as we can see, this 2 pixels border from the top and the bottom messing up the structure of our element. We can see the navigation is being expanded, but we will deal with it later. For now, we just want to have this effect as on our final project. As you can see, we get this nice underline after hovering on our elements, and you might think it becomes from the underline property, but let me show you this. If we place text decoration underline, it will look like this. That doesn't look so good, and we usually don't use this property at all. If we want to underline our elements in a nice way, what we usually do is placing the border, but only on the bottom of our element. Exactly like this. Now you can see this effect. As we can see, these 2 pixels still mess up our structure, expanding the navigation, but we will deal with this in the next video.